Because there's severe delays on the tubes tonight, you probably have heard already. Unfortunately, there's so many people on their way, but also we are aware there is, this event is streaming online as well, and people are very eager to join us. So we're going to start, and hopefully by the time we have the screening of the documentary, everyone will be here, and certainly we have all the speakers. So thank you so much, dear Deputy Mayor, for making, Wandsworth Deputy Mayor, thank you for making the time to come and support us in such an important event. Thank you, representatives from the Westminster Council, and thank you, friends and family from different organisations supporting us in this very important cause. And thank you, Margaret and Robin, for hosting us tonight. I think where else we can actually screen, or we can get together and raise awareness around the challenges that refugee and asylum-seeking women are going through, other than in a house such as this, Universal Peace Federation. So tonight, as you probably already know, we have gathered together to raise awareness on the gaps and the missing information, missing services when we target specifically women refugees and asylum seekers. Probably some of you already have the link to our recent report that we published in August this year, The Full Circle, and you have probably seen that we interviewed over 670 refugees and asylum seekers in London. And what came out of it specifically as an organisation, as Kosovar Albanian Youth Against Violence, we were very interested on how come most of this, the measurements that we did in so many indexes, such as housing, employment, education, immigration, and etc. On all these indexes, women and girls were the ones that was most affected and least benefited from. And this is how the campaign came about. And we thought that something like this to come out during the 16 days of activism is very important, because these women and girls, in a way, they're still being abused. And this came out of one of the testaments from one of the young ladies that I interviewed during preparing the Full Circle report. And I remember to this day when she was talking about her own experience as a modern slavery victim or survivor. She said to me, "Remy, but do you know how I feel? Every time they move me around, I actually feel abused all over again. I feel trafficked each time, because I've been in this country for over 10 years. I have no status. But then also what's happening is I have no friends, I have no relationship, I am in my 30s, I have no education, I have no opportunities. My life is dying." And unfortunately, she cannot be here because for obvious reasons, but we managed to capture that in one of the documentaries, which I'm going to be sharing with you all tonight. So I just thought I'd share this experience. I'm sorry I become very emotional. First, because I am myself a refugee with lived experience. I came here in late 90s. However, I haven't gone through that. I was so lucky. And when I compare my opportunities in 90s with these desperate women and girls at this age, at 21st century, it's not fair. I think we need to do more. And I'm sure people like yourselves, like our lovely Deputy Mayor here, and people from the Council, and all you that we're working together, we can actually raise our concern furthermore towards and reach the people that can make changes. So before I go any further, I'm going to invite our key speakers, starting with, I know Margaret usually would invite me, but she wasn't here. So I'll invite Margaret to say a few words, and then I will invite the Deputy Mayor. Thank you. And Robin, sorry.
Sorry, we're a duo. Thank you. Welcome to UPF headquarters. I'm very happy that actually my friend Remy, I know her for a while, is for the family, is for the women, is for the children, has chosen us as partners and a venue that's a safe place for everyone. But what I want to say more is that I am very passionate about kind of elimination of violence against women and girls. And we have many other people like Remy, but Remy at least came within the time of the 16 years activism. And I'm very grateful, because there's nothing more important than to save lives, nothing more important than to save dignity of women and children. So if we can understand the situation, we can actually give it out to others, because we have many friends, many people who are interested in these things. So we can be the people to broadcast and pass on. But as UPF, we've done maybe 12 years of this every year in Parliament, except COVID. And during COVID, we did a lot, because there was a lot more, attacks against women. So we've done a lot of things on Zoom. So this is very dear to our hearts. And we're very grateful for people of the community leaders to come, and our Sheikh, who is very, very, very interested in stopping trafficking completely, and is trying to do a lot with the petition to get the government going. Here's my partner in peace.
So welcome to everyone. And what we love to do, particularly when partners approach us and say, can we have an event, is actually open our doors, because new people, new groups, and some Dr. Helios from Wheat came a number of years back.
Of course.
So we're very happy to see him again. But it's actually very nice to see people come through the doors and to raise issues which also we feel wholeheartedly support for. So you're welcome, and we look forward to future collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to invite now the Wandsworth Council Deputy Mayor to the stage to say a few words, if it's possible, about your own views, but as well as what Wandsworth Council maybe is doing at the moment or planning to do in the future for this vulnerable group. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here today with the Kosovar Albanian Youth Against Violence as they launch their campaign Escaping Violence and Hoping for Sanctuary on the United Nations International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. I think it's imperative that local authorities and government take further action to support all those going through the refugee and asylum-seeking process, and in particularly women and girls. Women and girls are disproportionately exposed to more danger than men, and they first face further challenges with their full integration into society. Women are at more risk of being victims of crimes to organised crime, such as human trafficking and sexual violence. And in August 2022, the London Refugee Advocacy Forum launched their report, going in full circles. And the report identifies key themes such as English language, IT skills, health, housing, employment, community safety, and other areas where support is further needed to be strengthened to be able to help our women and girls who are fleeing persecution. I look forward to hearing from all the speakers today, and I'm sure everyone here will stand in solidarity with me for all of those women and girls that are escaping violence and hoping for sanctuary. I think just because Remy did want me to say what Wandsworth Council are doing. So I'm the refugee champion at Wandsworth Council, and we're hoping to becoming a borough of sanctuary. My parents did flee the genocide in Sri Lanka, the genocide against Tamils in Sri Lanka. So I've heard the experiences that my mom's had to go through and how hard it was for her to get settled here. And I never thought I'd be standing here as deputy mayor. And there's so much other women and girls like myself that can be standing here in the future, and we need to do what's right for them, to support them, to make it all okay. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. Now I would like to invite Jonathan from Westminster Council. If he could like to say a few words as well, please. I'm not sure if I'm being heard properly there, so I apologise.
Hopefully you'll hear me, but if not, just shout. My name's Jonathan Hearn. I work as Relationship Manager for Sport at Westminster City Council. I'm part of the Sport, Leisure and Active Communities team. But quite importantly, in recent times, my service has moved into the Innovation and Change section of the Council, which is a new communities team that's been put together in the last 12 months. With a specific attention and focus under our new administration of addressing much broader, wider, deeper community needs, of which this campaign is extremely important to us. And most of my work, even though people think of me within a sporting context or a physical activity, health and wellbeing context, it's community engagement. And it's about working with people from all backgrounds, all levels, children, adults, older people, disabled people, women and girls. And it's about giving everybody an opportunity to engage in the services that they choose to engage with, when they would like to and how they would like to. So most of my work is based on massive amounts of partnership work. It can be with big organisations like the MCC Lord's Cricket Ground. It can be Chelsea Football Club, who happen to be in Hammersmith and Fulham. It can be Arsenal, who are based in North London. But we also work with those, but we also work with much smaller organisations, women's groups, much smaller groups that work out of community centres and aren't necessarily sport and physical activities places, but they're health and wellbeing hubs for local people to get together. So part of the work that the council will be supporting this campaign, important campaign with, is to work further with Remy, through me, to see where we can reach into other areas of the council and where we can bring in other areas of support and collaboration. And I just had a very interesting discussion with Wandsworth's Deputy Lord Mayor about how important collaboration is, and that especially in the tough times we all live in, where resources are pinched, that we work a bit smarter and we don't just look at barriers within our own territories, but we look across to the benefit of people, because what we're here to do is to serve people. And I feel very passionately about programmes and campaigns like this, as Remy does. And it's important to bring communities together. So what we're about knocking down barriers, making it easier for people, listening and supporting and offer where we can. And that's what I guarantee we'll try and do while we work with you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Really, that means a lot to hear so many positive words from someone that actually can make a change. Thank you for supporting us all the way. So for now, I think some of our key speakers, they couldn't make it. One of them is unwell and another one is delayed somewhere in the traffic. So I'm going to start screening the documentary, and then following the screening of the documentary, which is by the women and girls who have actually been going through this experience. So after that, then we can actually call the panel and have a discussion amongst partners, experts, and see how best, what we're doing actually. First of all, just sharing our skills and our support that we at the moment providing to this vulnerable group, and then see how we can go from there, how we can actually improve that. And then following the panel, we will have a discussion. And following the discussion, we'll have a network meeting. And because it's an Albanian month, some of you probably know it's the Albanian Flag Day. So we will be celebrating a little bit, if you allow us, with traditional food and some classical Albanian music. So I hope, yes, just before you leave, I know probably it's not appropriate at this stage, but I think it does deserve a little bit of yes, a little bit of pleasure. So thank you. If we could start screening the documentary.
I'm from Albania.
I am from Kosovar. I come from Africa.
I met my boyfriend, and after that we moved together after 1 year living together in Tirana, in Belgium. He was a good person. When we get out from Albania, he borrowed some money. He couldn't pay that money after 2 weeks when we was living in Belgium. His friend told him, "You're gonna work for me," and he started work for him In the beginning I didn't know, but slowly I understand. So he was trafficking girls, make them prostitution.
So prostituting girls.
Yeah. And,
from Albania.
Yeah, from Albania. But most are from Albania. They are orphanage or they own some money, and with drugs as well. They're transporting drugs from Belgium to another country. So my boyfriend, I think he started to work for them to transporting drugs because he told me he's gonna go in Spain. And after that day, he never came back. After I was forced to work for them, they put me in a house. Mm-hmm. I was staying in a house inside. Never I was getting out for at least 1 year, 2 or 3 months. I don't remember.
You were locked in.
Yeah. There I meet Anna, my friend. Mm-hmm. She was orphan from Albania. She was working for them 2 years. Was
in this house?
Yeah, was forced to work for them. She was 2 years there.
Okay.
And we was trying to escape. We was making too much trouble. Mm-hmm. And they killed her.
They killed Anna, your friend?
They killed Anna in front of me. I know. I saw everything. And they called the police of the Belgium, some friend of them, to get out of the body from the house.
So they were involved with the police as well in Belgium?
So definitely from the Belgium I didn't have any help and I was not safe. They decided to send me to another country. In the beginning I didn't know in which country. Mm-hmm. But after when I was in the car, they told me, you're going to travel to UK, we're going to send you to another house.
Kosovo is not safe for me because too much time like that. I see in ex my partner, and it's very dangerous for me, and it's very dangerous for my daughter because it's very pushing me and very to I don't know to tell English. It's very to domestic. Yeah, thank you very much because I don't remember, and I have in mental health it's not very good, and my daughter I have in trauma.
I was told by my father that I was traveling with a family member to the UK, to further my education and have a better life. And as a teenager, you can't say no or yes, they're your parents. So I just went, travel with a family member 17 years back. Mm-hmm. I was being kept in the house, cleaning, cooking, like a modern slave indoors. I was, as a 13-year-old, I was taking care of babies. I was taking care of, the house, the domestic housework, the cooking, the cleaning. I wasn't allowed to go to school. I lived with the family for over 9 years. So due to dropping kids to school and coming, I see people moving up and down, and after dropping their children, they go to work, they go to school, they have things to do, and then when I drop the kids, I'm back doing housework. Mm-hmm. So that's when I started realizing this is not the life that I want for myself. Mm-hmm. So that's how I got to escape.
I want to escape. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what's going to happen because they have a picture of my family and they show me, if you're not going to work for us, we're going to kill them. And they show me the picture every 2 weeks, different pictures from my family. In that moment when I escaped from the lorry, because they put me in lorry and the driver of the lorry know that, I didn't think for no one. I was thinking just to escape and to be free by myself. Mm-hmm. It was afternoon.
Okay, all right.
I don't remember good, but it was not in the morning.
Okay.
And I find a phone, it was a yellow phone. I remember that because he saved my life, this phone. And after the police come, they put me in the police station. They give me some food. I think, I remember the names of the lady who helped me. And after that, they called the Salvation Army. It's a big organization who helped me. From the Salvation Army, I was living in a safe house.
When I escaped, I was scared, so I went to stay with someone, for 2 years. And when that also seems familiar, like previous place, this time around, I told myself I will go on, just to find authorities to find help. to seek for help after 2 years of running from my previous traffickers. So the process took, I went to one charity organization that helped women, and from there seek asylum, and then I got refused. Now I've been rejected with my claim, kicked out of the nurse accommodation. Now I find myself homeless, no money, no friends to turn to. So yeah.
Tourist visa is 6 months. In finish 6 months in visa.
So you have to wait for 6 months to finish your visa before you apply for asylum.
Yeah, asylum. It's homeless, me and my daughter.
So you and your daughter were homeless.
Yeah, because no home.
How old is your daughter?
7.
But now, in the safe house, with the Salvation Army, you're receiving a support with housing, and with the therapy, and they helped you to find a GP, and you said that your daughter goes to school.
Yeah, for my daughter's Salvation Army, and helping me very much.
So they donated
toys
for your
toys
daughter,
and dresses and shoes.
clothes.
Yeah, it's beautiful, it's nice. I am very happy. I'm a counsel. I didn't have any support.
You don't get any support.
No,
to
and
manage.
the lady who I was thinking she's my support. She doesn't give the proper help, because she was the person who told me, no, you can't get out from from London. But if you want to get out, you're gonna go by your own. So in private landlord.
You're losing all your support if you
Everything.
So now you are made to decide between your boyfriend and housing.
Yes.
At the moment, what's your status?
I'm a refugee.
So now you become a refugee. How long it took you before you became a refugee in the UK? Approximately.
Like 2 years and a half.
So I'm still in a kind of a limbo. I don't really know. I can't work. I can't choose where I live. I can't choose to go anywhere. I'm basically in the hands of authorities. They might not call themselves traffickers, but I see them as traffickers, because people that brought me here, they are no different from them. I was locked up in a house where I was allowed to go drop the kids and come back to the house. I had nowhere to go because I know. Now I'm being with the authorities. They're moving me anywhere they want within the United Kingdom, and I have no say. They're giving me money that they expect me to just sit and just wait for the £35 every week. And I can't go to further my education. I try to have, uni and stuff, but I can't. So they're basically I see them as traffickers.
Sometimes I'm very tired, I'm very quiet because I am lonely. My daughter go to school, and me and lonely, no friends. In support is good. It's not too much good, but it's good.
So you have a GP, and you also have support from trauma department and trauma therapy.
Yeah, I have. Thinking to help the girl like me, because I can understand them more. Someone else who have studied for this.
Yes.
So a person like me can understand them, the pain of them.
Because you have lived experience of trafficking.
Yeah.
You wanted to help
And
other.
Like this, I can help much easier for them. I want to work like voluntary, or to finish the university. I want that because I want to be independent. I don't want the country to give me money for living. No, I'm not that girl. I want to help the country, the girls, myself. I didn't have the right, so I wanted to work like a volunteer, yeah. And but I was not allowed.
So you were not even allowed to help as a volunteer?
No.
You are asylum seeker.
Yeah.
And if you had the chance to work, would you like to work? Because you said in Kosovar you had a job.
Yeah.
Would you like to work in UK?
It's very like it, but because me and no good mental health, I'm very stressed.
Okay, so you're not sure whether you are allowed to work?
Yeah.
Even though you're not feeling well mentally?
No.
You would like to work if you had the right to work?
Listen to the victims and give them opportunity to work and build their life, give them skills, put them into the environment where they're gonna build life with. But if you keep them in one place, moving them from one place to another, you're just adding to their trauma. You're just another person victimizing them.
Don't see a person like me, like we doesn't have a solution and we are here because government can help us. But to see like a normal human being and to give the chance to live, to work. And if we are asylum seeker, because we're going to be helpful for the community.
Following up the documentary, I would like to invite our lovely panelists from different organizations and with a wide spectrum of their experience working with refugee and asylum-seeking women. And there will be a microphone there. If I could invite Dr. Shaheen Ansari. She's a GP, also a mental health professional. Actually, let me speak on it.
Yeah, you have to.
So I'm going to invite Dr. Shaheen Ansari, a GP and mental health professional working with refugee and asylum-seeking women in East London. And I would like to invite Alketa from Spresa program. Spresa program is a champion in actually helping asylum-seeking women and girls in East London, and more specifically Albanian-speaking women and girls. And Alketa, I'm sure she will share a lot of experience from her everyday work, how she does this. Then I've got Leslie Donaldson, Salvation Army, manager at Young People Service, with specifically young girls who are affected with immigration issues and integration. And Grace McElhenney from the Ukrainian Institute, a volunteer there. She's a human rights researcher as well as she likes to focus on refugee and trauma and well-being of people in need. Thank you. And I probably will talk a little bit about KAYAV as well. So I will be representing KAYAV also, sort of engaging in conversation around the theme. So KAYAV was first formed in 2011 as a campaign even then. So in 2011, if some of you remember, there was some bad press around specifically gangs, young people gangs, and somehow even then there was mentioning of Albanian young people in gangs and how they were causing trouble. And because I was working in another organization then, in a community, parents asked me if it's possible for us to organize something to raise awareness in the community, to show the host community how we can actually help instead of being scapegoated. This is 10 years, 11 years ago. So we set up with the help from Refugee Council. I'm really sorry that Refugee Council could not be here tonight, mainly due to the fact there is delays in the transport, and I'm sure they will join us soon. But they will actually decide to help us to start this campaign then. And what we did was encourage young people to engage on positive activities such as sports, dance, and etc. And on that year, they showcased their skills, and that's how they raised funds for a friend of theirs in school. They were going through a treatment, cancer treatment. It was a very sad period for them. Anyhow, so they managed to raise £1,000 in that evening. And the newspapers, British newspapers, including Guardian, they featured our community group and the achievements for many more weeks after this event, which was really a great movement. We actually changed the view around how young people can be positive, really, the public view. It wasn't just specifically for this specific community or community group, but it was actually for the all young people. How, if we know how to engage them, if we know how to collaborate and co-produce things with them, we can create great things. So KAYAV continued to be active on and off for many years, mostly active since 2018. And now we work a lot with the whole family, not just young people. We work with parents and their young children, but also lately we've been helping a lot young women who are actually experiencing immigration issues. And some of the activities that we right now run are mostly fitness activities, sports, and dance, and that is 5 times a week, both online and face-to-face. And this is because we believe the trauma that we experienced years ago back in the Balkans is actually affecting directly the first generation, second generation, but also our kids as well. So we're trying to keep everyone healthy, but also to actually raise awareness how by activities such as sports and dance, we can actually combat bad thoughts or, isolation, depression, and etc. But also we train everyone in mental health first aid in Albanian language. So we try and do a lot by engaging our community and aiding their integration. However, that's enough about KAYAV. Now I'm going to actually start with Dr. Shaheen, a GP, who actually could share a little bit of her own work experience and her team's experience on how they actually help asylum seekers in East London, women asylum seekers and refugees, and how we can actually use this campaign as an initiative to start changing things. Thank you. And I'll sit over there.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my thoughts about this topic. I'm a GP in East London with a vast experience in mental health. I worked as an inpatient unit and in the community also. So I've come across these vulnerable people who are, waiting for asylum, and also the young girls who have been the victim of human trafficking. So I have seen them in primary care. Being a GP, I'm aware of their needs. One should be, and we should be able to provide them necessary need by knowing the opportunities which are available. And these people, because of being waiting, they suffer through a lot of mental health problems. I've seen anxiety, depression, PTSD, and along with that, if the depression is not treated properly, they get into a state of getting some psychotic symptoms. So it is very important that we have an open system. If anybody who walks through the door, we register. We take everyone, and once we have registered them, then these people are assessed for their physical health needs. If they need any physical health issues, they need investigation, the treatment is provided appropriately. Along with that, if it's found that they're anxious or they're depressed, for anxiety, we have counseling services available in the area, which is more of voluntary, but if they need more structural input, then they are referred to the secondary system for psychological assessment. I see patients for the depression, treat it appropriately. And if the main problem which I've experienced in the secondary care by working in the Whipps Cross Hospital, there's young girls who have been human trafficking. They are not aware of the situation where they end up in the problem, especially STD, unwanted pregnancy. They don't know about the contraceptions. So which is quite traumatic for these young girls, because if they don't want this pregnancy, so they look for the ways of getting termination done, which is not done properly, which can affect their future pregnancies because their tubes will be blocked, they will have infertility and all these things. And once this child which is born, we have to look into for people who can provide safe to this child, also adoption services. So it's a vast chapter there which we can provide these girls, especially contraception and all these difficulties. So I'm glad that I work quite closely with these people and I'm quite aware of their problems. So in the future, if Remy needs any help, I'm always there. So pass it on to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Alketa. I'm from Shpresa program. I'm a women's advocate there. Thank you, Remy, for inviting us. Apologies for others not being present, so I'm like a last minute to present them. I don't have much with Shpresa. I joined them during COVID time, so it was really hectic and really difficult, for everyone. But Shpresa has done an amazing job. They've been for 23 years, 20 years as a registered charity, which is now in November, actually. We're celebrating the 20 years of Shpresa. So the focus is in the Albanian-speaking community. We are a community that have lots of, come from a background with lots of problems, and identifying them and being taught how to address them, it's really difficult, so we needed help. And Shpresa is one of those many organizations in the Albanian community that has been addressing these problems. Shpresa has many projects, and one of the lovely projects that Remy was part of, and Shpresa started to identify the need of mental health, domestic violence, and etc. It was around 4 years ago when Remy voluntarily came to Shpresa and joined for 3 months and mentored, the young people that had problems. So it was really an amazing job, and thank you, Remy, so much. And not only for that, but also being part of us during COVID as well, doing the mental health and domestic violence trainings with our women. The project that I held and I lead, it's Be the Change project. It's focused on women and what we're talking today to make a change on women's life. We work with asylum seekers, trafficking women, with domestic violence victims and survivors. We work with migrants that are isolated, lonely, and they need, to come out of that isolation and loneliness. We work with people with mental health issues. We are not specialists in the areas of, domestic violence or mental health, but we do work in partnership with other organizations like Remy's organizations, Manor Garden, Total Family Coaching. It's specific, these three, because they are Albanian speaker specialists, which really helps our community and our, women feel at ease, because it's really difficult for them to be safe and to feel safe. So it's really important. But we also work with Refugee Council. And interesting enough, the lady that is a psychologist is a lady that has been as a child at Shpresa, as a user. So, and later she was a volunteer and helping at Shpresa, and later on she went on and became a psychologist and now helping her community. How the project works is that we have advice and advocacy. We create informal groups with women where we provide informal workshops for them, and the workshops involve information session on all the areas, especially domestic violence, mental health, asylum seeking, refugees, advice and advocacy on welfare benefits, and other areas as well. We also have people coming in like specialists, talking to them and providing workshops to identify and give information to them so they can be educated and taught, where to get help, because it's really important to know where to get help. Many of them are isolated when they come, especially we work with asylum seekers. They maybe have been in the country for 2 or 3 years in a hostel, and they've been isolated because of the language, because of the fear of the traffickers, domestic violence, mental health. So when they find an Albanian speaking, it's like a relief to them. It's a home. It takes a while. That's why we do those informal groups, in order for them to feel home and to feel safe, and when to be ready to ask for help. And we have formal groups as well. We've got parenting trainings, we've got teaching assisting trainings, volunteering opportunities. So it's like when they come vulnerable, and then they become, independent, helping others in need, which is really, really important, I think, for every one of us. I have a background of being an asylum seeker, refugee myself, and I know how difficult it is, to get that information. Sometimes it's just the right information to get, to the right help. So for us, it's really important. It's not just doing our job, but being empathic with them and being supportive as well. In regards to domestic violence, we do have lots of matters in that matter. So we are not specialists, but what we do is we assess the needs, and we try to work in partnership with other organizations to find the right relief, the right support. Unfortunately, at Shpresa, we've had 3 fatal cases in the past of abusive men taking the life of these women. And that's, I think it was 4 years ago, that was a big case. That's when Shpresa became really involved in campaigning against domestic violence and safety for women. So it was really important, for our CEO, Lulieta Nuzi, which unfortunately is not here today, and she's fighting a really rare illness. Therefore, she drove Shpresa and the team in order to be, trained up to the standards, to be trained on mental health, domestic violence, safeguarding issues, in order for us to identify and address these problems in the right situation, in the right agencies. Myself, I have an experience in welfare benefits and employment, but at Shpresa I gained new skills. I gained skills of being an advocate for women, of talking on behalf of them, supporting them, and also being their voice when they can't be their voice. And it's not just me, it's all Shpresa's team, all the volunteers. Without the volunteers, without the partners, we wouldn't be able to do the work we do. Shpresa does lots of work, and maybe I can take questions, and I'm sorry that I can't give, but thank you so much for, thank you so much for being part of it.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Is that closer? My name's Leslie Donaldson. Thanks, Remy, for inviting me. I'm a service manager for a supported accommodation, supported living home for young women, single young women, 16 to 25. The service is commissioned by the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, and it's managed. The landlord, Salvation Army Housing Association, is both the landlord and the managing agent. I am not an expert at all in asylum seeking or refugee. However, what I have seen is a huge increase in our applicants for our supported living, coming from our family and children's services, so social services making referrals for young girls 17 and 18 years old at the stage where they are awaiting for their decision on their Home Office application, or they have just received their indefinite leave to remain. We have girls from many different cultures. There's been cases of human trafficking from Vietnam. In Eritrea and Ethiopia, young girls are fleeing because of the compulsory conscription into the army. Sudan, Iran, we've had a number of applicants from Iran. So we do have, the challenges that we have is obviously to provide a sanctuary and a home first. But then we also see where before our residents have access to welfare benefits, they may still be receiving their monies through a prepaid card. So then when we're making transfers to get them into school or college, making grants for bursary applications or grants because they don't have a bank account, that can be a challenge. So somehow they're isolated, and our role is to really include as much as possible. We work in a very trauma-informed way because we realize that we're touching our residents at the point where they've got their sanctuary, but they may not have had access to some of the services and support to deal with the trauma. And stories are quite difficult. I'm really respectful of those of you who've had lived experience. I think that sometimes we want to find our compassion, and you can have the intellectual compassion sometimes, but to really know, it's really valuable to be able to reach and hopefully make some connections today, so we can really help. I'm here with some of my team. We did invite some of our service users. They haven't managed to make it today. But we're very proud of the work we do. Our main outcomes, obviously, are to help young women to be independent, live a full life, move into independent accommodation, live a full life, access education, employment, obviously. Some of the big challenges, obviously, because our hostel, it's a beautiful Edwardian building just around the corner from Notting Hill Gate. We have 30 lives in that home, so 26 young people, but we also have women and children, so young expectant mums or mums and babies. You have, obviously, as I said, there are about 15% of our girls have come from asylum-seeking or refugee through the Family and Children's Services route, and it can be really a big challenge as well for these young girls, 17, 18, to integrate as well into central London society. The challenges that we have with lack of connection, I think, during this pandemic. I think connecting is so important, and then also the challenges that come with the social connections that are made on social media. We can manage conflict sometimes when girls are living in a shared accommodation, sharing bathrooms and kitchens and different clashes of cultures. You can also, there are other challenges with bullying and things like that. So especially when, I think, building understanding between people and sharing. So we always celebrate diversity and try to bring all the, celebrate all the special days and we've learned so much. We've had wonderful experiences with our new residents, learning about various different cultures. As I say, I'm not an expert, but here to learn. So thank you, Remy. And
thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here today. I really wanted to thank Remy as well for inviting me. It's great, really, that we can all be here today to discuss this issue, and also we can pool our knowledge and resources in order to help refugees that are living in the UK, and also asylum seekers, because the two are quite different statuses. My name is Grace McAlaney. I've been working with refugees in the UK for the past 5 years from various different jurisdictions, and at the moment I'm working with refugees who are arriving from Ukraine. At the moment I'm working with the Ukrainian Institute here in London, and one of their newest projects is creating a language school for refugees free of charge. And the Ukrainian Institute is not actually a refugee association or charity, but of course, on the outset of the war, we really wanted to see what we could do to help support those who were arriving. And of course, you want to do everything that you can, but it's not always possible. However, for many refugees and asylum seekers, or those who are displaced who are arriving in the UK or any other country, sometimes one of the biggest issues can be the language barrier. And not only is this something that can make you feel very isolated and it prevents you from integrating into a community, but also, as many of us have mentioned today, this can actually make an individual more vulnerable to exploitation. If you don't speak the language, you can't ask for help, you might not be able to access different services. So really, language is key to not only healing, but also just to being able to assimilate into the life of the country that you've been, arrived to through whichever circumstances. There's a lot I could say, but for today, I think it would be good if I just mentioned some of the obstacles we've encountered and how we've kind of tried to navigate those. So the first one, which was probably one of the easier ones to handle, was that because of the fact many men can't actually leave Ukraine, lots of women are arriving and they are coming with babies, with young children, and due to being displaced, they don't actually have a network of family or friends in the UK that could help them with childcare. So they come here, but they can't access these services because there's no one to help them, maybe if they have a baby or that sort of thing. So we set up a creche. We would like to maybe do it more days, but we do it on a Friday. So that, if there are women who, have babies or young children, most of them are toddlers, so you can imagine, the havoc sometimes when they're all in a room, but they can kind of bring their children. They're also able to learn English, so this really facilitates, again, their, community cohesion as a whole, so that's great. But really, for the main part of today, what I'd like to speak about is the importance of making accommodations for refugees who've suffered trauma. And this is really, really important, I think, especially when we consider the context of sexual violence and lots of women who are suffering from poor mental health, but also from PTSD. Sometimes, PTSD is I'm not a doctor, but it's an extremely complicated disease or disorder, however you want to describe it. There's various definitions, but usually PTSD is caused from accumulation of traumatic events, and this can be quite common for those who've fled violent situations or persecution. So these could be things like real violence in situations like rape or torture, or even just more psychologically distressing events like the loss of family members, loved ones, detention as well, which, like Remy was mentioning before, the kind of idea of being moved from around, in the UK in different kinds of accommodations can be quite distressing. It's almost like they relive the trauma that they've experienced. But in the context of Ukraine, there is a widespread issue of sexual violence used against women. And this can, for those who have PTSD, this can kind of trigger a big trauma response, we could say. So this may mean that they have these triggers, and triggers for people with PTSD, it depends on the person, it's very individual, but for somebody fleeing from a conflict zone, these could be things like loud noises, crowds, lights, certain smells, that sort of thing. But for those who have suffered sexual violence, some of these triggers can be more specific and sometimes harder to mitigate if you don't really understand the situations that these people have came from. So this kind of thing can include a fear of men, fear of being in enclosed spaces, and lots of little things that if you haven't suffered that kind of experience, or if you haven't, studied it or kind of made the effort to learn about it, it'd be easy to just kind of, wash over it and not think that it's a big issue. So when we made this school, we decided to train all of our specially selected teachers in trauma, how we can kind of navigate our classes, how we can make the classes safe spaces. So some of the things we've done is made sure the groups are quite small, the rooms are not exposed to harsh lights or sounds. We have women-only groups for when that's needed as well. And we also avoid discussing topics that could be distressing, and sometimes this isn't immediately obvious. But again, the idea is we want women to be able to come, to be able to learn, to give them this skill, but also that they feel that they are able to come here and to kind of not be stressed, because then they can learn more. So yeah, we've been working a lot towards that. And, it's important to mention as well, not every single asylum seeker and refugee is traumatized or has PTSD or anxiety, but it's important that we can provide that support to those who would require it. And then, we're kind of eliminating every boundary really for those who want to be able to develop their life in the UK. But yeah, thank you very much. And I look forward to meeting more of you in the discussion later.
So we heard so many great examples, and you also actually triggered a lot of questions in me. So I'm sure someone else here, many people here would like to do the same. But one of the things I actually would like to add to what you just said, Grace, is, and connected with what Dr. Shaheen said earlier, the fact that not every asylum seeker or refugee woman and young girl would have had experience with trauma. However, what we see is a lot of gaps in the medical staff, because often it could be starting from reception, really, when they go to register. The first problem is often with our clients, it's so difficult to identify a medical center that will take just anyone that walks through. Not many surgeries like yours, Dr. Shaheen. I generally can tell you about West London, where we cover Kensington and Chelsea, Central London and Camden. But and then, of course, coming to the point of staff not being aware of the needs, specific needs of the women that were trafficked. That is another problem as well, and the approach as well, the lack of knowledge around how you approach this specific vulnerable group as well. So thank you for raising that, and thank you for your amazing work, guys.
I also wanted to mention about the facility of social prescribing, because what I've realized, the main problem with these people who have been, the girls who have been human trafficking or through the asylum system, they're, beside being traumatized, their main difficulty is housing, financial difficulties. They are on their own. They don't know what resources they can, the language difficulties, the IT skill. But we have social prescribing forum now, which makes all these things very easy. And Remy has been always saying that a lot of these people have difficulty in getting registered with GP, which I find, I don't know, because in the area where I am from, East London, we register, and it's an open system, and they are saying, and most of the GPs are aware of their needs, and unless you are aware of the needs, you don't know what sort of help they are looking for. So I think it's very important that we should be aware of the resources and their needs, because these people are very vulnerable, and they need a lot of education, they need a lot of support, so they can easily get into the system in UK. So I think, I strongly feel that's the reason. I mean, it took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to be here because there was problem with the tubes today, Central Line. But I wanted to be here because I strongly feel that these people are very needy, and should people be looking into that, how vulnerable these young girls and what problem they can face in the future, especially if they go through improper way of having termination, which I strongly feel that they can harm themselves.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shaheen. Just before we move to the audience, I actually would like to invite someone who is online right now, and they are a member of the panel as well. His name is Avni Dervishi, and he's joining us through Zoom, and he's not in UK, he's in Sweden. He works for the local government there, and he's a strong advocate for women's and girls' rights. So go ahead, Avni. He's talking from one of the countries, the most democratic countries when it comes to women's rights, I guess, Sweden. So go ahead, please share some good experience from Sweden, please.
Thank you very much, Remy. First of all, before I introduce myself, let me just say that fighting the violence against women and girls is not and can never, ever be a thing that only women should do. It's something that concerns all of us. So much more men should be involved on fighting the violence against women. And it should never, ever be just more women. So thank you, Remy, for inviting me. I hope the next event that you are going to host, regardless in UK or here in Sweden, that half of the panelists should be men as well, because the violence against women and girls in general is harming the whole society, not just women. Saying that, I would like to say that my name is Avni Dervishi. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to give my saying on this one, Remy. I know you've been active very much. We did cooperate through a United Nations organization before, opposing violence, domestic violence. Personally, I've been to 88 countries to promote gender equality and empowerment, and also youth empowerment. In many of the countries that I've been to, I have to say that in many of them, they were surprised why men should be involved on gender equality issues. But when I highlight the gains that all we men get by promoting and supporting gender equality, then many of these decision makers, which usually listen to my presentations, they really understand that there is something else behind the success of Western democracies. Because if there is some other things that I would like to highlight, is that when I was a member of advisory board of an organization called Fair Fund, based in Washington, D.C., they were fighting human trafficking. Of course, almost all the victims were women and girls. I also did learn by then that it's impossible to go to the ground and fight properly violence against women and girls if we do not involve more men. In this content, I would like to say that it's much easier to involve youth organizations where also men are part of it. I do not want to generalize, absolutely not, but we should bear in mind that in the Western democracies, there are many people coming as immigrant and asylum seekers, and in many of them who come, just as many of you panelists did emphasize, many of them are not integrated in the society. The lack of language, it means not just the lack of a tool to communicate properly, but also it means the lack of understanding the customs, the traditions, the laws and regulations, but also another thing which is important to highlight, which is like any other democracies, the United Kingdom or Sweden alike, we do have rights and responsibilities. And those responsibilities usually are not being mentioned that much, particularly if many of the immigrants live in neighborhoods where more or less look like ghettos. So we all know what does a ghetto is being defined as, where many other people are unemployed, the crime rate is much higher. So what I want to say is like many men, I would never ever excuse that, but many men I know they are affected by how the other men from the same community do see them. Let's say there is indirect pressure that they should be more violent toward their sisters or toward their wives, because that's what expected from the so-called honor-based values, should I say. I do like this because for me, when you live in democracy, man or wife, man or woman, you should have the same rights and the same responsibilities. In the end, we cannot forget that in our open societies, you can change religion, but you can change gender as well. So there is never anyone who can say that only the fact that we have different kind of genders beneath, under our clothing that make us smarter. So please bear that in mind, that there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that gives us men the right to use any kind of violence against women or girls, regardless where we are or what we do. What I would also like to, we talked about problems, I would like to talk just shortly about some possible solutions. Please bear in mind that London is part of the democracies, Western democracies. I would like to emphasize that please do cooperate more with NGOs and also the decision makers, being me, a part of decision maker, because I was recently elected in the regional parliament, by the way, and I do have some assignments in the local municipality where I live as well. So do cooperate with your colleagues in other countries. We in the Nordic countries, Scandinavian countries, we are very open-minded in that sense, and we would like to share experiences with you, because, for instance, we do face honor-based violence rather much. I'm sure many of you know, on a yearly basis, according to United Nations, 5,000 women and girls are being killed by men who are part of their families, either brothers or fathers or uncles. For instance, with regards to that, fighting honor-based violence is a democratic right and a democratic responsibility, not just for the institutions, the police authority and the justice system, but also for us human beings, regardless if we are politicians or if we are an NGO. And then I would like to highlight also the fact that use this on our argument in every single health sector, just in NHS, in UK and in Sweden alike, between 70 and 80% of all the workers in all the hospitals and medical care centers, they are women, indeed. So this violence against women is opposing the negatively, I mean, it's affecting negatively, it's affecting negatively the health of men and boys as well. This is something that should be highlighted. The violence against women is decreasing the willingness to help elderly, because many of the ones working there, they are indeed women, and also is weakening the possibility to take care about the children, because many of the workers working in the kindergarten facilities, they are indeed women. So that's why I was saying earlier, initially when I started to talk, that fighting the violence against men's violence against women, it's nothing that should be a task, an assignment just for women. It should be for us men alike. So please do involve as many men as you can in your boards, in the associations, in the local councils. Another thing that I would like to highlight is please do use role models. That's what we do here a lot, and it's working very much. Role models, for instance, of men successful in sports. I heard earlier there was a representative from the local council with regards to sport engagement. That's really, really good. But do involve men on opposing violence against girls and women, on opposing trafficking. Not necessarily they have to come from the same community. I live in Sweden for about more than 30 years now. And for instance, of course, being born in Kosovo as an Albanian, I'm very proud of Rita Ora and Dua Lipa. But Rita Ora and Dua Lipa, beside being very good on artistic level, they are really ambassadors for promoting equality as well, and human dignity as such. So do use those role models. And then in the end, I would just like to say, pardon if I took a lot of time, my apologies for that. Please bear in mind that the 8th of March, when someone comes and bring you flowers, because it's the International Women's Day, tell them, if you really respect me as a woman, as a girl, bear in mind that you should respect me 365 days a year, not only today, because indeed women rights are human rights. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your contribution to this event. Great messages there. Thank you. Someone asked me that you would like to make a question. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Mohammed. Before introduce myself, I want to say thanks to the KAYAV to make this the documentary. Actually, I was really full of tears, and the main reason is I'm one of the victim of trafficking in the UK, and I can feel the feelings, and I'm going through in the trauma, and it is very difficult. And unfortunately, like once a time when this thing happened to me, I was kicked out by police station by a woman, and who said I'm mad, and what I said they didn't believe. Yes. And this is our duty, actually, it doesn't matter, man or woman, our duty to come out and to say, otherwise how would you know that? And especially when we face all these authorities, like one of your, in the documentary, this is like, we just change the hand. Now what we have faced with the authorities, sometimes we feel like we should feel safe there, but are we safe? No. Because the way they treat like as an animal, I would say, sorry to use this word, and like you used a great example, like someone be a psychologist, like who was the refugee, but in these days we have seen the kids of refugees, when they got the power, they stand against refugees, which is really sad. So I shouldn't forget where I'm from. So this is very important for, like what this gentleman said, we have to be equal, men and women. I help so many women, and now I have seen they got a good life, but me, I'm still suffering. And from that point of view, actually, I opened a charity, which is try to support. Sometimes not to give the food to stomach, but sometimes you have to listen to someone. So this to give food for your mind and to give them peace. So this is the things, what you were doing is really great, but I would say is not enough. And specifically, I would say to thanks to, because obviously they're doing for their own communities, but in my communities is not enough. Sometimes people try to take advantage. And what happened to me, just from my experience, most of the traffickers, they are free. They are not inside the prison. Even some of them, they have been awarded by the Queen. Prime Minister, they go to their event. I have this evidence, and when we try to stand against them, we got the threat, don't do it. So actually, all the victim, Even a few years back, I have seen the Home Office, they spent a big amount of money to support, but most of the victims, they don't know. A few years back, they appointed a minister to deal this trafficking, but it's gone now. So what they said, they're really doing it, they really want to do it. You know, this is the questions, and all the traffickers, they are protected by the laws, but we are not. We are really vulnerable. So that's why, like, we have to settle up the fair. We have to come out, and we have to be fair enough. And it doesn't matter where I'm from, where you're from, and it is because what happened. It took over 10 years to prove that I was innocent. But I didn't stop myself. I tried to improve myself to prove that I'm not useless, but I'm useful. I don't have, like, you know, what she said, she wants to do some volunteer, somebody want to go to the university, but we don't have. But through that, like, I'm the professional cricket coach and umpire by ECB. I ran 5 times London marathons to support the disabled children. So I'm trying my best as much as I can. And from that point of view, I would say, like, please be fair enough. And because sometimes we need, you know, not the physical, the mental support. So it helps us.
I think I'm glad that you
Thank you
brought
very
it
much.
up, because whenever we are talking about the domestic violence always, we think of that is the woman who is suffering. But I have seen patients when the husband has been traumatized and they have been the victim of the domestic abuse. So I'm glad that you brought this up. We should be mindful, and we should be looking into and properly assessing the situation.
That's definitely, I do agree. And if you, I will share the link to the report that we done recently. You will see that we interviewed 670 refugees and asylum seekers from both genders. However, what we thought was we raised awareness about the gaps that we spotted during this report. So this is why today we mainly talking about women and young girls and their experiences as asylum seekers and a refugee experiences as well in UK. However, without forgetting that every refugee and asylum seeking, regardless of their gender or age, they're all being affected in one way or another. We're just trying to raise awareness how women and girls are slightly more vulnerable, both because of their journey coming over here and the reason why they had to escape. It could be from domestic violence, it could be from trafficking as well, and then having to remember that when we offer the services. So I really appreciate you sharing your experience. I think it's very valuable, and under no circumstances we undermining your experience as well. And we will be working more, and everyone here, I'm sure they're doing the same. Anyone else has a question for the ladies?
Okay. My question is to the lady who have given us some information on the accommodation. But before I move to that question, I might pick up with the gentleman from Sweden when he says human rights abuse somewhere is human rights abuse everywhere. So we have to address it globally, wherever we are. For example, Kosovo has been mentioned several times, but in my corner of the world, in Tigray, I came from Tigray, northern Ethiopia. I don't know how many people know the genocide in Tigray, whereby 120,000 women, 120,000 women have been gang raped in front of their loved ones, maybe in front of their husbands, fathers, and sons within the last 2 years. Very shocking. But it's nowhere in the media. No, I don't know how many people in this room know about that. Now, we are supporting Tigrayan refugees who have come to the UK. Hundreds of them have arrived already, women and men. Our problem now has become the accommodation issue. Many of them have got now the refugee status after a year of staying here. While we wanted to celebrate their status of refugee status, another challenge has come with it. The challenge is, now we are a refugee, not asylum seeker. You have to leave the hotel in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time. And they are made homeless. Now we are dealing with a lot of women and men who have become homeless. So my question is there any way we can support those asylum seekers who have got the refugee status to get their own homes? I know that you are dealing with specific age groups, I think 16 to 25, you said?
Yes, 16 to 25-year-old women in my specific service. But there is supported accommodation within all of the 28 London boroughs. So my service is just one service for 30 people. But the local authority can support with the applications. The eligibility criteria for our hostel, for example, would be homelessness as the first primary need, obviously young people in our case. And then there needs to be support needs as well. So whether that, that could be if you're a refugee, suffered trauma. But we can't solicit applications and we don't make any other referrals. Our referrals come through the local authority. So I think the question is really for the local authorities as well in terms of that kind of housing.
So it's like contacting, for example,
is there any contact?
Yes, anybody or the individuals themselves can go to the local authority and present themselves as homeless if they're having to leave a hotel. But they would be assessed on a priority needs, and that's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one. Sorry, not one for me. I'm not a commissioner of housing at all. I'm just a provider of support. It's a really difficult one.
We deal with, with asylum seekers becoming refugees, housing issues, afterwards, the same. And then we have problems with housing within the asylum seekers, where, in the hostels that they stay in. The hostel is disrepaired, the conditions are awful. So
especially there's been a case recently which has been in the news. The child had a severe asthmatic attack and it was a life-threatening situation, and it's because of the dampness in the property. So these things are the major issues. I think housing is the main on the top.
And I was just going to add that as an agency, for example, us and every one of us, is to raise that issue and just push it forward. What we do, for example, if it's a migrant health issue, then we would advocate for these people and just try to get help from legal specialists like community care or a housing specialist, and try to push it forward, because it's really hard for the voice of the asylum seeker or the refugee to get through to the Home Office or the local authority. Many of us know how difficult it is to, to deal with, unfortunately, with local authorities and with the housing issues. We have so many, service users that are going through difficult times, being homeless, disrepairs, and not being heard, and not being understood about, the effects of, mental health the housing conditions have, or the effect that, the process of being housed in a sense. So it's quite, hot topic.
Absolutely.
I think it's a really hot topic. But if we work together, if we come together, we work in partnerships and we connect, I think we could, start to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And I think a forum like this is the best space because people are listening and we're talking about it. So maybe we'll have some outcome of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I wonder if, just to mention that, I work in the sport and leisure service, and not necessarily the housing, but I have colleagues for Westminster Council who work in housing. And maybe with a group like this, we could actually approach the council and we could ask if they would be prepared to send a representative down to talk, to answer questions, because what we're talking about here is the engagement. We need things to improve, and if we all sit in a room and we talk about them, we need people from outside who can maybe, add solutions to some of those questions. Now, I won't volunteer colleagues of mine from housing, but there are colleagues in housing, and I think we should maybe think about how we would approach them from an informational point of view, to say, can you provide clarity on what can be supported and offered and what can't, you know, so we can make some progress with that. So it's dialogue is important.
What we have been hearing now from the ladies here is that women have been affected by traffickers, and when they come here by different issues related to sexual abuse. Yes. When you are vulnerable with no housing, you can imagine.
That's it. That's it.
It's a breaking point.
It's a vicious circle.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
I know. I mean, I can understand what you're saying. Because unless, in some ways, we can break that circle, which is not very easy because of difficulties with the housing, as we are talking about. Because if they are vulnerable, if they don't have a proper housing, and then if they are victim of prostitution or human trafficking, where they're staying, people taking advantage, say easy labor, and all these things, they get into more trouble and more problems. So it's an ongoing.
Can I just add, sorry to that, you've highlighted some great points, and the point that I would make maybe to councils and authorities is that if we allow that to happen, to then take the time to change that situation, it costs much more resource, much more money, much more effort, much more officers' time to address those problems than maybe if we start having those conversations at the root and think how we can stop that cycle.
I've seen this problem when I worked as an inpatient unit, having people who are homeless or these young victims. They are in the inpatient unit, they've gone through all these abuses and all, but then they're stuck up. Where they go from there next? Because there are not enough facilities available to help them.
No, of course, it's a resource issue, but it's a conversation that we need to broaden for other people to come in and see how that cycle can not only be acknowledged, but how it can be broken. You make some good
Housing
points.
first.
Maybe it's important to mention also the gap in the law, the housing law, because we had a service user who came to UK on a visa for 6 months with her daughter. You probably heard her tell her story in her broken English. And because her visa wasn't allowing her to apply for asylum, i.e. not eligible for NRM, so she was left with her 7-year-old daughter literally in the streets. So that is another gap that we really need to look into these gaps there and try and figure out how best we can actually accommodate everyone. Thank you, Jonathan. I really will take you up on that. I think all my colleagues here and everyone that is actually joining us today, we will be doing something else. And the next launch will be in the Houses of Parliament. So I do hope that you will join us there as well. The next question.
Good evening. I am Diana Husseini. I am fashion designer as well as I am ambassador for peace here. I worked for human rights when I came to London. I am not a refugee, actually. I'm not a asylum seeker. I worked a lot for a lot of families, especially from Middle East. The matter here about saying that the people who came refugee, not all of them having trauma. I tell you, all of them having trauma. But not all of them want to talk about their trauma. Why? They feel embarrassed. They feel uneasy. I was living in a very good life in my country, coming here, and I don't know whether I have problem or don't have problem. How can I talk about it? It is very difficult to say I have a trauma or I have a mental problem. So all the refugees, believe me, having a mental problem. Not only women, the man. The man having it, more the woman, because he feels he's incapable to do anything for his family. Being a refugee, no work, no money, no house, how is he going to face the life here? We have another trauma here. Now, the consequence of that, the woman see there's a lot of freedom here, woman having a lot of right to do whatever she wants. It ends to have divorce, separation, disrespect the marriage life. Who is going to be here double victim? The man. The man is going to be double victim. Neither her problem is resolved, nor his problem is resolved, nor the life become better as a refugee. Now you see how it happened, how much people were being killed. It's not only women, men and women, children. Why? All what I say, and I want to say in a very high sound, stop war. Stop this great, they call them great power, to kill us, to kill the child, to kill the woman, to kill the man, burn the countries, killing everyone. Why? Why we should always believe without them we cannot do anything? Of course we can do everything. Unless they remove their nose from our countries, we are not going to have peace. These countries, the West, are going to have refugees and refugees and refugees to empty these countries, to take over their lands, to take over their all the natural resources.
Thank you. I really appreciate the contribution. I really agree that we must stop the war everywhere. So this way everyone will be at peace, and also that we will not have many people fleeing their own country. So, hi, you wanted to ask a question, go ahead.
Yes, it was actually to follow on from some of the points that were made. So, as an ambassador, and I also work for the Organisation of Human Rights, one of the ways that we address these gaps is through multilateral working. What she's just raised is something to do with the security nexus in terms of on an international scale. And one of the biggest problems is that we seem to address these things sometimes locally or try to regionalise it so it doesn't move out of that zone. If we work more multilaterally, we'll be able to address these issues. So one of the things that we do is through community consultations, where we invite GPs, housing officers, housing trusts, councils, MPs, councillors, police, nurses. We all get round the table with members of the community and we have conversations, and through that we're able to facilitate platforms to address these gaps. So we work with, for example, with some of our projects, we work with asylum seekers, people on low income, and we have to address these issues in so many different ways. None of us can solve this as individuals, but working together and prioritising humanity over profit, we can actually do this. So we've all got pieces to a big puzzle, which is humanity comes first, right? Because at the end of the day, these drivers usually come from absolute or relative poverty. And a problem can start in, for example, the Middle East or Eastern Europe or Africa, and it can actually make its way to your front door in London. And a lot of people don't think about these things. They think, oh, that's a problem over there. And I think we're seeing it more and more, especially since COVID. That's not a problem over there. Yeah, when you're going to the shop and you can't buy strawberries, it's not a problem over there. It's all interconnected. So we have to work together and put humanity over greed, because most of us are fortunate, and it's through that sharing and caring. But unfortunately, hurt people. So the underpinning of that is around mental health. And one of the things that we've considered is if everybody got a routine session in cognitive behaviour therapy, just at the minimum, would be able to make these better decisions. So I really push, especially following on from the gentleman in Europe and yourself here, sports practitioner, and yourselves on the panel, it's going to be that cohesive multilateral working from the grassroots up that's actually really going to address these gaps, because we actually have a lot of things in place already. So we don't really need to reinvent the wheel, we just need to put the wheel together. Do you understand what I mean? So thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, I'm so very grateful to all your talks. Especially you and you as well. But what I feel a little bit from Siobhan said, it's like we are 5, 6, 7 groups here, 8 groups. We can actually, even now, exchange letters, numbers, etc. For example, I am thinking of a person with mental health. I want to refer to you. So therefore, that would be really good. This is like a little, but on a bigger level, even if these organizations work together, they can do something better than you. The other one can do better than her, etc., etc. I feel there are many people there who want to be volunteers. I am not specialist. I have a lot of empathy. I can love everybody. You know what I mean? You could have that kind of person. It doesn't have to be a professional, but help the professional, something like that. And there's many people wanting to do work like that. So if you could tell us what's going on and where there is lack or need, we could do something. But two small questions is I was going to ask you, where is your place, the school?
So at the moment, British Land is sponsoring.
Pardon?
British Land is sponsoring. You can use the microphone.
I'm saying, I mean physically.
Paddington.
Paddington?
Yeah, but it's
Wonderful.
it's not the Ukraine Institute's building, but British Land are sponsoring, because we needed to have like classrooms with, smartboard type facilities. So yeah, they're sponsoring us, and through that,
UPF is just here. You can ask for help if you want.
Thank you. That's very kind.
You can find teachers and things like that, maybe.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I just want to add that Spresa has a project. It's a sample project that we're doing with Ukrainians, and we are based in Newham, so you can refer any person there, and it's like a support group, and we do signposting and referring.
Thank you very much. And your work also is Kensington, Chelsea?
Salvation Army Housing Association.
Oh, in Kensington.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. So,
Margaret, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. I am quite aware of the timing. We have gone over time. But just before we end, I just would like to give the last word to Sheikh Ramzi, because he's very passionate about the human trafficking.
Yeah, if you allow me just...
Yes, please do. I can have the microphone. And you ladies, if you would like, because it's been too long for you sitting here in front. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you and God bless you. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen. Amma ba'd. I would like to greet you first, but I'm not going to be too long. But I know you're very tired, and 2 hours we have been sitting down. But the issue which I am saying is a real issue. What we are talking, with all respect, of course, what we are talking at the moment is putting a plaster on a big knife wound. But here the reality comes. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Why we have refugees, my brothers and sisters? Of course, one of our sister point down here. Why we have refugees in the first place? Millions and millions and millions of refugees, which the majority are Muslim or Albanian or whatever, majority are Muslim. In my opinion, refugees are the innocent brothers and sisters who are victims of the war between countries. This is happening. I'm very involved on that. Victim of a famine situation, of victim of political situation in the country, and so on. This victim tried to go to other countries, but unfortunately impossible because of the border and stupid laws which they have. We are trying. We should not have a border at all. And I'm talking to the government since the British put the demographies, everybody fighting with each other. Before 50, 100 years ago, everybody can go to, especially other countries, can go here, there. There were no borders. Now borders, they fighting with each other. However, that's not the issue. In 21st century, we should not have any borders. God did not put any borders. My brothers and sisters, dear friend, we are human race, and we are one human race. And we should not be divided. There are enough food for us and enough work for us around the world. Dear friend, one of the reasons that why we have many refugees, again I said that our sister point on it, in the world, is the evilness of the greed of the countries who produce arms to sell, to make war, and to get benefit of that. This is the truth. I talk to the government, I talk to the MODs, I talk to the many, but just say, Sheikh, would you like a cup of tea? You believe me? However, the example of a victim of Syria. We got the Syria, we got the Iraq, we got the Egypt, we got the Libya, we got Afghanistan, we got the Africa, we got the other one, especially of course Ukraine, which I'm talking millions of refugees, asylums. My brothers and sisters, these are victims of the warlords. I talked to the United Nations, I talked to the middle of United Nations about that. I work with the United Nations. They must stop They must stop to protest since selling arms, and they must welcome the refugee. We must welcome the refugees. Enough is enough. These refugees are suffering. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Really, I think holding up for actually stopping the wars and so reducing the refugee numbers is quite important.
If you just allow me a little bit more say, and after that I'll finish it. Otherwise, don't worry about it. I'm sure they can give, Robin can give 5 more minutes.
Or we have some food left downstairs, so we need to eat that as well.
No problem.
So
That's
if
okay.
we could,
Thank you very much, and God
if we
bless.
could, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have, of course, we have many things. We have a petition,
so
which we have a petition with making for the government. Of course, I know again the biggest business in the world is the sex trafficking. $250 billion a year they get in it. They get in it as a six import of the countries importing, countries demanding. Otherwise, we have no sex slaveries. America is a 6. I don't know what the UK is, but UK is there. However, we made a petition with the government. With the government, we are going to give a maximum sentence because the traffickers are very rich, very powerful. The mafia or whatever, we are confronted with the government. I work for the governments. Now, what we need to do, we need to get the maximum sentence is only 3 to 4 years or a fine. They get in for killing the woman, the slavery the woman, pedophiles all over the place. Children going. I know the mother. I know she is victim of the slavery, sex slavery. And I said, I can help you. He said, no, my child is somewhere else's. They kill him if I touch it. Go away. That he told me, go away, I don't want to, my child, I sacrifice my child. These are the way, what we need to do, maximum sentence after life sentence for them. Anyone touching the woman and children, this is how I'm doing it, this is we will do it. I talked to 300, at least I wrote 300 MPs, and I talked to the 50 responsible MPs. They said, Dr. Ramsey, if you can get the 10,000 only, not 100,000, we can do it. But the people does not know. The people does not know what is happening. We have to promote that.
Yeah,
I'm several directors, several. God bless you. I know.
Yeah, we can definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramsey. So, please allow me. Yes, definitely. Please allow me now, guys, ladies and gentlemen, to invite you to a couple of songs, classical songs, violin. And then following this, we will be going downstairs to have some food. I'm really sorry. You must be very hungry. Most of you came back from work. So I am going to invite my compatriot as well as my friend, Castriot, who also happens to be a ambassador, peace ambassador, awarded in Kosovo, in Prizren, one of the most beautiful cities in Kosovo. Dr. Shaheen, I hope you're not going. Are you going? Sorry to put you on the spot. I really wanted you here. Okay, great. So yes, please do enjoy. And then, as I said, once we listen to a couple of pieces, then we can go downstairs for some food. Make yourself comfortable. The microphone should be on as well. Thank you so much for your patience, guys.
I'm so happy that I'm here with you. The second reason is, first, I'm playing with you, and second, that, how do you say, I'm the ambassador of peace and member, and the first piece I'm playing for you is named Trandafiri Chedas, is old Albanian song.
Romanian.
Albanian song, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And another melody, the name is Birdfly, or Song of Bird. Kanga Bibülit.
So I will invite you all to join us for food tasting, I would call it. There's quite a lot actually down there. So our lovely colleague there, she's brought it in. So we will have some... I do hope that you can stay with us for a little bit of a food tasting, but thank you so much, Deputy Mayor, and thank you so much to Westminster representative as well. Thank you to everyone. Ah, yes, I was asked. I do apologize, guys. Please come back to have a group picture. If you could. Would you mind? Please. Would you, if that's okay with you, everyone, including partners.
I think everybody for the stand on this.
Yeah, sure. I know you asked me, but then I forgot.
You forgot.
Can we have a group picture, guys?
Move all the pictures.
Is that okay?
Where do you live currently? I live in Lewisham. Lewisham, okay, I know Lewisham. I used to work with Granny. And yeah, no, let's swap details because I'm quite well connected with MCC.
Okay, sorry. I started the MCC law.
Okay, yeah. And you're still coaching?
Yeah, I'm still there as a volunteer.
Yeah. We can squeeze you. Space. Come and try and insert.
Hi there, Chica. The fashion lady.
Yeah, very good. Absolutely.
I need one without a flag as well, because it's for everyone.
Okay, take this and then we'll do one without. Okay, take it.
Please, someone send us these pictures, because
without. We did do without.
Yeah,
we do one without.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, without as well, please. But will you be sharing these pictures afterwards, Margaret?
I don't know who has to be sharing.
Whose phone is it? So we'll take that.
Robbie, why don't you get ours then?
Share.
Who's going to share?
Robin, why you don't come here? Robin.
Yeah. Give it to
Wait for
Robin.
Robin.
Wait for Robin.
Wait for Robin. He's the main man.
Okay, everyone can see this phone. One,
We said chicken and
three.
cheese. Chicken is nice. Chicken.
Thank you. And one more.
Yes,
here.
I don't like cheese, but chicken.
1, 2, 3.
Like that one on the chair.
Can you get ours?
That was good. I'd like you to do fiddle. Can you do that? Fiddle on the roof.
John will do it. John Hearn.
Ready?
Ready.
1, 2, 3.
Chicken.
Fillimi et kanë gëspar, sone kjo është Samsung apo? Unë kam iPhone. E mu dash me pyet njërin për këtë tash, ajo tha jo si të ka ty gjisuar është alë shoma. Ço që kam gjisuar.
Shumë faleminderit. Younger, put the chairs away, please. Younger, put the chairs away. Thank you. Albanian symphony. Or the ladies only? The ladies.